The beauty about the wellspring is that the wellspring is inside our innermost being. That the wellspring that we can drink from with no measure, no limitation, is the wellspring of eternal God and glory inside our very own heart. That we imagine that the wellspring is outside of us. We imagine that we're looking for something outside us to nourish us and fulfill us and quench our deep thirst for wholeness. And the great glorious truth is, the great good news is that the wellspring is right inside the fullness of every heart. That there is nowhere else that we need to look but within. And yet somehow we have learned and been conditioned to look outside. And so as we gather in this remembrance. We join in the remembrance that the wellspring, the connection to source, is within. And it's actually the potency of our gathering is as every being is connected to their own knowing of this wellspring, of this source, that each being is a potent antenna that brings forward a transmission, and then our field joins as a field of transmission where we're gathering and joining in a oneness, in a deep and profound collaboration. We're not kind of gathering around the queen bee, right? Thinking that's where the honey is, right? No, we discover our own sweetness with our own source connection, and that we have this incredible autonomy, and it's so potent and powerful, because then what we bring as we join together is a collaboration of openness, a collaboration of love. And we find that our field is a potent field of the absolute edge of the evolution of consciousness. That we're not stuck in old paradigms, that we're not stuck in learned, conditioned, and inherited ideas, but that our gathering itself is a frequency of true innovation, and that we're living right at the edge of an innovation of what it is to live as a human in this earth realm at this time, and that we're not following in the footsteps of stagnant old ideas and frequencies of fear, but we are bringing a frequency of a new aliveness to love, the reality of love, and we're bringing that together, and we're joining together to discover what is actually possible when we gather in this frequency, and what is possible in this human life. And it's about everything that we've ever been searching for. Yes, it's about awakening. It's about the light. It's about conscious community and gathering. It's about joy and freedom and love. It's about peace and wide open heart. It's about the infinite, the eternal self. It's about the great inquiry into the self. It's about focus and silence and stillness and presence. It's about kindness and compassion and patience and truth. It's about all of the stuff that we're searching for, and we're longing to know. And yet it's not incarcerated in old ideas, right? It's not held, it's not stagnant, because we have no idea what is happening now until it's right here. And that's the great glorious freedom of true life, of true vitality, being fully animated and infused as a vessel of life, of love, of light. And the discovery of what this is and what this is all about is right here in this moment. It's always fresh, always, always alive and potent, because it is that energy of a wellspring, right? That's coming from source. It's bubbling from source. And as we each harvest and harness the energy of the wellspring as it bubbles from source, we allow that wellspring to bubble through our unique configuration of laws of nature and animate and bring alive the uniqueness that each one of us are, and not as a divided, limited, separate one, but as a field that is unified and unlimited, as a field that is absolutely one integral whole. And we're in this great unfolding of recognizing what it is to know our belonging to God and glory, what it is to know our belonging to truth and wholeness, to the light itself, to discover what we are as a divine being, what divinity actually is, what purity actually is, what innocence actually is through our lived dynamic experience of being a human. We have this capacity to use the, the dance of the body in the play of the world to discover what it is to be a fully embodied human. And to be a fully embodied human is about embodying the light, embodying our own pure frequency of light, embodying that pure frequency of unconditional, perfect, spotless love, right? And to be an emanation of that frequency and to live that frequency and to find out what it is by tripping and falling and shining and radiating and feeling everything and being fully open and immersed in the whole engagement of what it is to be living a human life, that we're not using any concepts of, let's say, time gone by to inform our experience, but we're using the, let's say, the teachings, the practices, the lineages, the wisdom traditions that have brought us alive. We're using these things that have brought us alive to actually distill it through our own system, to actually find out what is the living reality, not stagnating in concepts and teachings, right? That we're not kind of idolizing the traditions, the teachings. We're actually being the alive exploration, adventure, and transmission of this through living this directly and finding out what is it, what is this pointing to, right? Discovering the light for ourselves. So we could say that most traditions and teachings are pointing to the moon, and we might have an idea that if we arrive at the moon, then we've arrived, and oh, the pointings have pointed me to the moon, and now here I am on the moon. How glorious, right? But what we discover as we land on the moon is dark without the light of the sun. And what we're actually being invited to discover is, where does that borrowed light come from, right? That if it's pointing to the moon, we actually want to find out, where is that borrowed light, the whole light, the light that never goes out. We're not looking for a light that is the opposite to dark. We're not looking for a light that becomes night and day. We're looking for a light that never ever is dimmed in any way, right? Because that's our true nature. That's life force, that's vitality, that's wholeness. So we can use this idea of the sun as what we're actually looking for. We're looking to to realize the frequency of sun, but not just sun as a planet, but sun as a light source that is multidimensional and carries us as we enter that recognition of the frequency of sun or of light, that it carries us to deeper and deeper frequencies of the true sun, sometimes called the central sun or the great central sun, right? We open to the divine light, to the clear light. And we simultaneously, in our lived experience, we root down and make a symbiotic and deeply caring relationship with the earth. But we go deeper into the absolute embodied core of reality, right? So that we're rooted in the core of reality. And just as with the breath, we notice that the in-breath and the out-breath has a pause. There's a pause between the in and the out-breath. And when we enter that pause, we enter the infinite unbounded. And just the same with our adventure, we discover that the more that we open to the infinite unbounded. And the more that we ground and root, we open to the infinite unbounded. And that the infinite unbounded is our true nature. And it doesn't matter whether we're going up or down, that it's the same, right? The up, the down, the in, the out, that the wellspring source of it all is the same pure light, the same pure frequency of love. And that in a way we are here to open to, and as we open to, be nourished by absorbing, through being immersed in, soaking in the frequency of pure light, of pure love, opening to the transmission field and being absorbed into the frequency of divine resonant remembrance, where we come to our own autonomous knowing of the true source of who we are, through the recognition, recognizing through the intelligence that we're made of, our own deep recognition, that we cognize and we remember at the resonant level, not at the memory level, but at the resonant cognition level. We recall this frequency of truth and a deep resonant knowing of what we have always been, so that we realize that we're not looking for a new experience. We're not looking for a new spiritual high or a new spiritual mountain to climb, but we're actually falling deep, deep into what we have always been. We're falling away from experience and the play of opposites and the play of karma. We're falling away from the hamster wheel of thinking that we can win the game of life. We're falling back into the recognition that it's already done, that there's not a game to win or lose, that there's a reality to remember and recognize. And it's about living this frequency of reality, right? And this frequency of reality is the awake field. It's the wide awake field. And in a way, our lived human experience is about using the vessel that we are to run around in the game of life and to gather the pieces that seem to be disparate and discordant, and in a way put back the puzzle, the mysterious puzzle of what this human life is, to actually piece it back together in our own heart, to rebalance and harmonize the frequency of our own heart. And ultimately, the great glorious crowning moment is the moment that we place the puzzle piece of our very own self as the missing piece of the puzzle into its rightful place in the great divine plan, as belonging to God and glory and the big picture of love and light and salvation and glory and celebration, that we place ourselves in God's mysterious puzzle, that we realize that I am the missing piece and I've been looking here, there and yonder, right, for what's missing. And actually, we take a long, deep, open-hearted look in the mirror and we discover you, my love, you, great glorious being, are the piece that God is looking for, right? So return yourself right now to your creator, your maker, your great glorious mother, father, light, the glory of all that is. Return yourself to that which you belong to eternally, infinitely, gloriously, and holy, right? Return yourself. Jump into the camp that is in glorious celebration of God and wholeness. And we discover in this unfolding what God truly is, and that God has nothing to do really in the deepest way, or is not limited by ideas of religion and spirituality, but that God is the glory of all, the essence of all. And when we start drinking from the wellspring of our own knowing, we start remembering what the glory of God actually is, and that God is love. God is our very own self. God is grace. God is life. God is the way. And God isn't a person. God isn't someone that is holding judgment, or any of these ideas that we have perhaps been captivated by, these ideas of being a sinner or being unworthy. But actually we are made of God. Every fiber of what we are is God. Every fiber of everything in the appearance of creation is God. Every feeling, every emotion, absolutely everything is God. And if we come to this kind of beautiful surrender in the ever-present now, that all there is God, this is God. Whatever it is, this is God. That we're in this incredible surrender that's asking the frequency of God and glory to show up, even if we feel like God and glory is not here and we're in a moment of division. When we recognize, okay, whatever's happening, this too is God and glory. It's like we're opening our heart to say, reveal yourself, reveal the fullness of this moment, reveal the frequency where divine remembering happens. It's like saying, I know that I'm not actually alone here, even if I feel that. And in a way, we could say that what God is our higher whole self, is our holy self. It's the fullness of our very own self. It's the divine remembrance that we're not a divided, limited, broken, wounded person, that we are a child of God, and we're being invited in this life to claim that fully, right? And that it's not arrogant, and it's not untoward. It's absolutely the mission of this life is to claim the truth of who you are, right? In a way, the great glorious question, who am I, is begging for us, begging for us to realize that I am a child of God. And if I give myself to this glory, what is possible in this human life? So much around spirituality and religion has actually divided us, because we have these conceptual ideas of what God is, or we have fear or mistrust. we feel abandoned, neglected because of the stories that have been woven through religion and early traumatic experiences, and through the path of spirituality and the dance of corruption and distortion that can be part of that and our journeys. We realize that we might have tied ourselves in knots, and we could be keeping ourselves away from the glory. Whereas in a way, all of the corruption and distortion of our lives, we have to discover is our own delusion. And we're in this human life with the possibility of seeing through our own delusion, and seeing that all corruption and distortion that we see out there is somehow present in us. As above, so below, the macro and the micro, that somehow, that whatever we're seeing is inviting us through reflection to receive the fullness of ourself, and for our protected, conditioned hearts to crack open to the glory of God. And ultimately, what we really need is just a whole lot more of pure love and glory in our hearts. What we really need is a whole lot more love that is pure and unconditional and all embracing in our hearts. What we need is a brilliance of light and radiance of light that shines and illuminates the truth of what is real in this life, and what is illusion, so that we can have this powerful capacity to discern and actually really embody the power of who we are, and that we're not needing to give the power away to false deities and idols in the external, these ideas that there's something outside of us that can give us this truth, or that we need to be shown that reality. It's like anything outside can only point us. And then it's about the powerful posture of taking absolute responsibility, being the seer, being the pure awareness, the awake one, is to be the seer. Be one with Shiva, be the seer. And as we are the seer, we are the light. And as we are open to the flow of life, we are the Shakti. We are the flow of life. We are the seer of life. And in that, it's an incredible combination that gives us the power to see, and the power to illuminate, and the power to transmute the discordance, and to rebalance and harmonize through the play of life, through the lived experience. So just to pause in this moment, let your breath exhale so deeply that you meet the infinite rootedness of like emptying yourself, so that when the next breath comes, you are filled with God and glory. You are filled with light and vitality and life force anew. And as the breath fills you, you feel the prana, the life force that is filling you, and restructuring and entering every fiber and cell of your being multidimensionally. And at the top of the inhalation, in that pause, opening to the infinite is opening to the infinite brilliance and light of feeling wholeness and fullness, and the beaming brilliance of radiant sun, right? So in the fullness, we open to the radiant sun and the brilliance of divine light. And on the exhalation, we empty. And what seems to be emptying, and in a way, we're in this moment of a nanosecond of death, right? Will the breath come again? Will the breath come again? Will the breath come again? But in that moment of surrender, we enter the darkness. We enter the death just for a moment. We surrender. We hand it all over to the deepest darkness, to the grace and the glory and we say, I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours. It's up to you if the breath comes again. And then, the breath comes again. And the gratitude and the grace and the recognition of what it is to be animated by a force, a power that we can overlook the incredible, incredible miracle of what it is, of life to enter the flesh and systems of the seeming physical, while all the while the subtle body, the light body, is an eternal body that can never die and has never ever been divided by the play of the human life. So we then start to enter our multidimensionality. Let's pause just to notice this incredible miracle of the breath of life, the breath of God, the breath of light, the power and the glory that enters and animates. What is there here? What do we know here with eyes closed? What do we know here with no words? Just the inhalation and the exhalation happening naturally. A sense of aliveness. What does the seer see now? What does the knower know now? And then we open our eyes and great glory, appearance. And what if we open our eyes and we don't make this life mine? What if we open our eyes and we see the glory of a creation, just like morning has broken, right? A new dawn, a new creation. What if every time we open our eyes, a new creation? What if every breath that comes as an inhalation is a new creation? And the creation is the glory of God, right? What if it's not my life, your life? What if we're being invited to be so deeply connected to the power and the glory and true nature that we open to the true nature of everything, right? We open to the awe and wonder. We open to see as the seer, that's not seeing through ownership and sense perception, but is seeing through the frequency of essence, illuminating and loving. What if every moment is like a rebirth, a fresh moment of creation, of revelation, of glory, of life? That we're not carrying a suitcase of karmic burden, that we're not carrying these ideas of who I am and fix it, change it, that we're just open to the glory of this moment, in the wow of it, just like a baby opening its eyes. And yet we have the grace that we do have language, but that we don't hold language tightly, but we allow language to float. And instead of being identified with the meaning of language, that we are just feeling the frequency of languaging, that we open to a curious adventure instead of a static idea of here's another day to try to fix the problem of me, try to make my life better, try to change things. What if what we are being invited to change is our perspective of seeing? What if what we are being invited to change is the frequency of our lived reality? What if we're being invited into a living reality that is a new creation in God and glory, and that now is the time to fully live this? and to let go of the ideas of limitation, that we're being invited to enter a different frequency than fear. And we could say on a certain level the frequency of love, but even our misconception of love can limit what the power of love truly is. That when we truly open to the transmission field through the presence of being, the silence and the stillness, that we're opening to a transmission field that is constantly recalibrating and upgrading our nervous systems and our consciousness. And in that, it's like we're being divinely nourished, deeply nourished by taking in the nectarine frequencies. It's like, it's by transmission, but it's like osmosis that we're just soaking in. We're being infused in these frequencies as we open to the still silent field. And our whole system, multidimensionally, all of our systems are being upgraded, rejuvenated, and the absolute vitality of life is attempting to just take over everything, take over and take up residence everywhere in everything, to truly illuminate, rejuvenate, and refine all that we are, upgrade us in the most potent ways, so that we actually even just have more of a capacity through our consciousness and nervous system to be nourished, to actually take in more and more refined frequencies. And through this, we have this capacity that's natural, that we don't need to fix and change or look externally for answers, but that we are the living answer. And we have this inner capacity to recalibrate the distortions, that consciousness itself in its purity recalibrates the distortions, and that true healing is the inner recalibration of distortions and the shifting of perspective. And this kind of recalibration has the power to shift our perspective of seeing and upgrade our consciousness and nervous system. But it also has the power to recalibrate the kind of cellular structures at the level of like transfiguration, rejuvenation, and repatterning of the frequency fields that can restructure our biology and our DNA, right? We're wired for these kind of upgrades. We're fully wired for these kind of upgrades to happen, to really open the source codes, the light codes that are programmed in our consciousness, and start to live at a fuller capacity, to actually live the life that we're wired to live, and stop playing it small, right? Sounds like such a thing to be like, stop playing it small. But it's like, wow, all of us are playing it small. If we actually really open to the possibility of what is possible in this human life and what we are wired for. But here's the exciting part. Well, it's all exciting, but what's really exciting that we come to discover is that this unfolding is as one field. It's a collaboration, right? We start to discover what true collaboration is. And true collaboration is as we enter the frequency field of the one, the unified field, where we are one. In order to truly come alive in this human life, in the uniqueness that we are here to be as a vessel and child of God and glory, that we are actually wired as a field of glorious being to collaborate, because it's through collaboration that the light codes and patternings of our unique configurations get activated and brought online. that we're wired to actually need each other, but not need each other within the realm of human dynamics, right? That we get trapped in because we know that we're pulled into connection through our humanness. And then we get trapped in kind of ego dynamics and kind of small ways of relating. But actually, that feeling that we have that we're pulled to each other to connect and collaborate and join and enjoy each other is because we're pulled, because the wiring is that we're being called out of like self-reliance and a kind of independence which is protective. We're being called to the need to collaborate because as we collaborate, we start to create light maps, like we weave our light codes together in maps and mandalas that start to create constellations of of new of new organizations and upgrades of consciousness. And it's actually as we join our codes, our frequency codes, our light codes together as we are opening to true nature, right? This can't happen until we're open to the unified field and we're actually emerging and flowering in our true nature. Because it can't happen, of course, within dynamics of dependency and codependency. But when we start to meet in the frequencies where our unique source codes and light codes are coming online, that we start to be offering unique codes, and we're drawn to each other to collaborate, to enliven and awaken those codes, and then to share what's coming online through collaboration and visioning together and joining together so that we're actually operating as one whole. And of course, part of this is that we have to surrender the need to be an island, a me and a mine, and being the one that needs to be seen and powerful and kind of successful and needing to kind of be the queen bee and have kind of life gather around you and see you and validate you, right? It's about surrendering the need to be a someone into the whole, into the flow of the wholeness. Like true service is to surrender the need to be a someone and to, in a way, kind of be moving out of that kind of chronic self-reliance and need to be independent and seen and successful within those dynamics, which is the old paradigm and the fear paradigm. Because as we enter this new frequency that is possible now, right, that we're entering a frequency field where we're powerful in our source connection, which is where our autonomy is and where the power is. And in that, we have this capacity to then join from source connection and autonomy, blossom in our uniqueness, and then join in our uniqueness in order to activate the light codes and the divine patterning that we are uniquely here to bring, and to create these maps for the future of humanity, essentially, right? That we join together to create the maps for the future of humanity, right? So it's an incredible, incredible possibility that we are opening to. Just to feel it, just to notice what is happening in your nervous system, in the frequency field. Just as the recognition happens in your nervous system, And as the reconfiguring and reorganizing is happening, it's like a reorientation towards God and glory, towards the pure love, and your connection to Source starts to activate and bring forward the unique frequency light codes that you are here to contribute to the whole and to the evolution and to this light weaving map. Pretty incredible, eh? Just how beautiful this life is, right? How beautiful this life is when we're not just focused upon me and my problems. And of course, coming through the layers where our stresses and strains pull our attention is an important part of the upgrading. But what we realize here is that it's not about solving the problem. It's about opening to allow the glory of the field to be the frequency of light and pure, perfect, spotless love, where transmutation is supported. That we realize that we're always supported, we're always plugged in to Source, to this wellspring, right? That the bubbling brook of the wellspring of intelligence and love and light never ever goes dry, and that we're being invited to be constantly quenching our thirst and be nourished by the nectarine frequencies of bliss and light and love, so that our systems can be constantly plugged in and upgraded and rewired and reorganized. And as this is happening, we then start realizing that the shifts that we are longing for are actually happening, and we're not doing anything and we're not solving problems, but we're plugged into Source. We're open to the grace of we could say like divine support, but really we're opening to the divine transmission field of light that we belong to. We're taking our place as the child of God, and we're plugging in and realizing that as a child, your kind of your chemistry is never apart from God and glory, and that we've never been divided, and we actually just plug ourselves back into Source, and all of the upgrades multidimensionally can really start to take place. And we move through the phases of trying to kind of deal with the karmic assignments that we're here to clear up, right? And we realize that we've done so much work, and we've gone through so much upgrade, that in a way what's left and it is, it's not about moving in the old ways, and it's not about psychological healing. It's about attuning to the frequency where we open to this kind of innate capacity that we have within our own consciousness to transmute and reorganize our whole nervous system, in fact, all of our systems. But we have this capacity to clear and shift the discordant patternings that present as emotional and mental imbalance, and also present as physical imbalance. That we're so deeply entrenched and conditioned to think that the solving is outside. And yet the solution is about the resonance of our heart being attuned with God and glory, and the true reality, where in the reconfiguring of all that we are on every level starts to align and attune to the frequency of pure, perfect, spotless love and divine light, that we open to being constantly attuned to the transmission field. As soon as we kind of go into the mind and we divide and separate, it's not that we're not being recalibrated. It's that, right? It's that, this is important, is that when we're shut down in a way and we're cutting off the flow, the only way that we can be recalibrated and upgraded is through creating a reflection of our shut down consciousness, right? Because just that flow of natural recalibration isn't at its full potential because we're limiting ourselves and we're dividing ourselves and protecting ourselves even from God and glory. So that's when life has to create images on the screen and experiences in the life that will create a reflection for us to crack open and bring forward what is unconscious, right? And as it brings forward what is unconscious, then we have the possibility to be with, open to, transmute, and allow our consciousness and our nervous system to reorganize. And the more that we open to God and glory by this, literally by just, this is God, God is here. It's like when we call, the response is there. In a way, maybe that's the true kirtan, right? The call and response. Great glory, this is you, I am yours, I am here, says the glory, right? I am here, always here, always here. Just call, I am here. And the call is really just this openness that says, this is God, this is the glory, this is the truth, right? Somehow this too is God. Somehow this too is love. In this moment, I don't know like the actual metaphysics and I'm not feeling it all the way through, but there is something here. And the part of you that knows is the child of God. It's the frequency connection that's never been disturbed. And that anchor of knowing is the still silent, the still small voice of calm, as they say, right? Where? I think it's in the Bible, but I couldn't be absolutely certain, right? So we start to see the glory of this life from a different perspective. We start to see it from the perspective of the seer, of being the intelligence and the light that starts to recognize at a deeper level, okay, wow, I can start to navigate this life with my superpowers of, of being a being of light, of being connected to source and the wellspring, of being connected to love and the unconditionality of a love that holds everything equally and includes and welcomes everything, that love just is flowing to receive itself. It gives to itself, it receives itself. It gives to itself, it receives itself. Gives to itself, it receives itself. It's like this constant flow, and that's the flow of surrender. It just constantly collapses into itself in order to nourish itself and to be self-sustaining. This is the beauty of the flow of life, of a life that is a wellspring, a life force and a vitality that is ever accessible, right? So just pausing here and just noticing what is happening now. Just to be really present, awake to your own nervous system and feel and recognize the aliveness, the vitality, the fullness of God and glory just right here now. So as there's a deeper alignment and attunement to your own connection to Source, you start connecting in and you start being a transmission frequency field of your connection to Source. And that transmission, it starts to recalibrate your nervous system and consciousness, and the reverberant frequencies are moving out and affecting the whole reverberant field of consciousness. This is where we open to be like a field of reverberant love, a field of reverberant care and blessing, a field of reverberant compassion. It's a frequency that just welcomes and includes, and it's like an all-encompassing love that just knows itself and just meets itself and reorients and reorganizes everything to this frequency. And this is where the true healing happens. The true healing isn't an external fix. The true healing is a reorientation to the frequency of love and wholeness. And here, then the power of what gets open to comes in and reorganizes the field, upgrades and recalibrates, and works on shifting anything that's left as debris in the karmic obscurations, the things that are holding us still protected and conditioned and in frequencies of fear and darkness. It's like the recalibration gets right on in there and illuminates and reveals that darkness is the purity of light, right? It says we go right into that darkness, that the purity of light essence starts to shine. That the essence, nature of everything is light, and that the brilliance of divine light and being the one that sees and illuminates has this courageous willingness to get right on in there and illuminate, hold, receive, and just deeply welcome it all. And whatever seems like the darkest and the densest frequencies that can be arising, when we just illuminate and hold and embrace these parts with this transmission of compassion and care and deep, all-encompassing blessing, that the frequencies that are discordant naturally surrender themselves as they recognize their true nature. It's like the tangles undo, fall away, and the flow is more all-encompassing and returns to a flow of integral wholeness. So just resting here and receiving the transmission codes of light that are upgrading, bringing online your source light codes, the unique codes that you hold, igniting, enlivening, and bringing online more of a capacity to access, so that as you access, you start being a transmission of these light codes and bringing these light codes forward and collaborating and sharing in the field, which starts creating these maps and mandalas of the new frequency orientation for our lived human experience as an expression of the divine, as an expression of God and glory. And what also happens as we bring these codes forward, these codes of nature start to allow us to work in even more refined ways with nature, even more symbiotic synergies with nature, because we're opening to the intelligence that nature already has. We recognize that in nature, but as these codes come online in us, we start to recognize the symbiotic relationships with nature more profoundly, more deeply, and we start to open to the intelligence and incredible upgrades that are possible as we collaborate with nature in ways that we've never actually truly known how.